Hello and welcome back to The Kickoff, the My Betting Mates football podcast where we discuss all things A-League, Premier League, and this week a bit of FA Cup as well. My name is Matthew Galea and I'm once again joined by Nick Dabano. Welcome back, Nick.
No, thanks for having me again, Matt. Should be an absolute cracking show after a very enthralling weekend.
Yeah, there was a lot to, dissect from both the A-League and the Premier League over the last weekend. And I guess, as always, we'll start close to home with the A-League. Another round of interesting fixtures, and obviously we had a big game last night just between Melbourne City and Western Sydney Wanderers, which ended 7-0. That game was obviously played after we'd written the column for the week, but probably not a bad place to start this week's discussion, given how recent it was. Things have been going badly for Western Sydney Wanderers, but even in their worst nightmares, they probably didn't envision a 7-0 thrashing like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an amazing, I think, collapse is probably the best way to sum it up. If everything that could go wrong went wrong, I think that game sort of summed it up. It's been a horror patch for Western Sydney Wanderers. They've lost their last 3 games. A drubbing in the Sydney derby, a disappointing loss against Western United last Friday where they were leading and then, conceded 3 goals in a matter of minutes and lost that game. And then to lose 7-0 against Melbourne City, like you accept losing, but losing by 7, a team that has prided itself off being a real formidable defensive unit, to concede 14 goals in 3 games is quite a disaster to sum it up. But to concede 7 of them in one game against Melbourne City was quite incredible, because when it just seemed like once Tolgai Arslan scored the first, it was just a matter of when the next one was coming, and they blew them out of the water in the first half, 4-0 at the break. The first goal wasn't even until I think about like the 32nd minute. So It just goes to show how quick and how rapid it was. And things just unravelled for Western Sydney. And look, it's been a perfect little patch for Melbourne City now, back-to-back wins. They've capitalised on Wanderers' poor form. They're now inside the top 6, which is, I think when you look at the quality that Melbourne City have, they should be a top 6 team. And they got the job done. Very impressive. And capping it off with probably one of the greatest goals I've ever seen in Australian football from Terry Antonis. And you know what? He could tell he enjoyed that one that little bit more, considering how his time ended at Western Sydney. Just to the audacious, sort of move to flick it over Oscar Priestman, but to hit it so sweetly. Like, how many times would you see that hit and it just end up being a complete failure? Either it scuffs off the side of the boot, it flies into Rosette, but that was just hit so perfectly, and what a goal it was, and what a way to wrap it up.
It just had the perfect the perfect apex. It was at the highest point at the right time. It dipped perfectly into the net. The keeper had no chance, and it was just the awareness to catch the keeper off his line whilst he's lobbing the ball over a player, and he obviously the space worked out for him to be able to run up and give it a fair whack. But incredible goal to cap off an incredible result for Melbourne City, who, like you say, now find themselves in the 6, and a team that always should be there or thereabouts. They'll probably feel like with their squad they should be in that top 3 mix. And I think Aslan again showing the difference maker he can be for Melbourne City. For them, I guess it's just for so long they've been the team that's dominated the home and away standings and fallen short in finals. It might be the reverse this year.
Well, this is the thing, right? If you're going into finals and you look at how the ladder is situated at the moment, we know with finals it's 3v6, 4v5 in the first week. Top 2 get the week off. So right now, if the season ended right now, they'd play Melbourne Victory in a first up game. Now, I know Victory beat Adelaide on the weekend and they've found some form again. But that is almost the one team you don't want to play, because, yes, I know they've played those 0-0 draws, but if Melbourne City can get all their ducks in a row at the right time, get players back, we know Tilio's got an injury, Lecky gets back into some form, Joe McLaren scored his first goal in a while, Tolgai Arslan's hit some form, and they can start to find some confidence. That is the last team you want to play in a one-off elimination final where all form just goes out the window.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the teams in the top 2, you're Wellington, you're the Mariners, and you've got to play up against Melbourne City, you'd be thinking again, Jesus, like in this one-off environment where all form, all history goes out the window, you just need to time your run well in this stuff. And that's how finals work. That's the beauty of finals. Everything goes out the window.
Yeah.
And Melbourne City is so good at Amy Park. So a one-off final against Melbourne Victory, then it becomes a 2-legged thing against one of these teams. You keep it tight on the road. I'm not saying that they're going to, go on and win the thing, because they've still got to get there first. They've still got 6 games left and they've got to wrap it up. But if they can continue this form, it was a much-needed win against Wellington. It was an important win, and then to come out and beat the Wanderers as well like that, I think I'd say it sent a little bit of a statement just to everyone else to say, yeah, I know the Wanderers have their issues, but we're still here and we've still got a lot of quality.
Yeah, I think the top 2 finish now is as much as important to just get the week off and prepare for the rest of it's almost worth its weight in gold for not having to play that potential banana peel of a Melbourne City or even a Sydney FC who have shown that they're more than good enough to beat any of those top 3 teams. You know, you get them after they've played a must-win game that might soften them up a bit. That top 2 finish is definitely crucial. I think in the finals picture. One team, you know, this was one of the points that we sort of looked at in the column this week that probably won't be playing finals, and therefore finals might be a bit poorer for it. Is Perth Glory. Again, dishing up one of the most entertaining games of the season over the weekend. You know, their ability to find the back of the net is only matched, if not surpassed, by their ability to find ways to concede goals. And it's been their absolute downfall all season. It's what's going to cost them finals. But I just, you know, I don't think I've watched a really bad Perth Glory game this season, to be honest. They've always thrown up drama. They've always thrown up some sort of, they've just been super dramatic to watch and exciting. There's always been goals, and this most recent game was, you know, just another example of that. Adam Taggart obviously rescuing a point with another 2 goals and extending his own brilliant run of form in goal and probably been one of the redeeming storylines from the A-League this season. You know, with I'm sure Socceroos hopefully something that he's hoping to get back into. But they're the one team that's not going to make the finals that I sort of wish were in there. I just think they'd add so much excitement in those sort of one-off contests.
Well, they'd need everything to go right from here, and their ability that they're never out of a game means that they're going to be fun in this little run home. That if they don't make it, they might play spoiler to a few of the teams in around them. They do play the Wanderers this weekend, which shapes up as, you know, Perth win that game, and considering Melbourne City aren't playing, it's a 5-point gap with, for them, 6 games left. But, you know, ramps up the pressure on the Wanderers. It puts the pressure on Brisbane Roar, and it makes for a really enthralling run to the end. But, you know, you talk about Adam Taggart. He's had an amazing season. I think it's gone under the radar a little bit. I think only recently, like, people have really started to stand up and go, you know, geez, he's had just an incredible year. Just about in every game, he's either getting a goal or an assist. It's very rare that, you know, he goes a few games without sort of impacting the scoreboard in one way or another. It's easy to forget that I think in 2022, before the World Cup, he was a shoo-in in that Socceroos lineup. He was starting games for the Socceroos. Wasn't just playing. He was a key part of Graham Arnold's team. Injuries let him down at the wrong time when it came getting close to that World Cup. He made the move to Perth Glory just to get some minutes, find his form again, return home, familiar surroundings. And look, he has been absolutely incredible this season. The Socceroos do have issues with scoring goals, and I think Adam Taggart has timed his run really well. And if you're Graham Arnold, you've got really an embarrassment of riches from an A-League perspective. If you're looking at your March window, I know the squad will be announced on Thursday this week. And there'll be the three guys leading the Golden Boot: Bruno Fornaroli, Apostolos Stamatolopoulos, Adam Taggart. You could feasibly take all 3, really. I mean, like, you know, you're playing Lebanon in 2 friendlies, World Cup qualifiers, 2 games that mean a lot, but a good opportunity to maybe test a Stamatolopoulos or a Taggart. You know, if Bruno's he did find the net. Yes, he hadn't been informing around that. But if you're looking at players who've been playing regularly, they're the 3 strikers at the moment in the best form. So it'll be an interesting one to see whether he's done enough. I think he certainly has. Whether he can kickstart an unlikely push towards that final spot, I think is quite unlikely. But I think if you're going to be penciling in, as we've spoken about, a game to watch every single weekend, and you can only pick one, I'd be picking those Perth Glory late kickoffs. I know they start a bit later if you're on the Eastern Seaboard, but they're a really, really fun watch, especially when they're down in a game. Because even when they were down 2-0 against the Jets, I remember I was just thinking to myself, like, they're going to come back and get something from this game. They always do.
They almost need to be down to start playing, which I'm sure frustrates the hell out of
Imagine being a Glory fan as well. Like, you know, you'd just be sitting there like every time, like, here we go again. You're there, you're waiting for them to start strongly, then they start poorly again. You're like, come on, can we just put this together for 90 minutes for a change? But I think more importantly for Perth, they've sorted out the off-field stuff. They've got the ownership situation sorted. they can go into this off-season now with Alan Stajic, who can actually build a squad in his image and be like, all right, I can build this squad without having constraints from, they lost players due to, certain regulations from the APL. They had to shed the wage bill. Now they can go, all right, we start fresh, we start clean. Let's build this squad in the way we need to for next season.
Yeah, it's sort of gone from almost a poison chalice type of job now to one where you can actually maybe have a proper project, build something exciting for the city, for the fans. And, really in Alan Stajic, they've got a very good coach to do that. So definitely, I think, eyes on 2024, 2025 for Perth Glory. The other thing we sort of looked at this week in the column was sort of just having a look at the makeup of, I guess, that top three, which at the moment includes Central Coast, Wellington Phoenix and Melbourne Victory. Macarthur only really 2 points off Victory as well, but we've just looked at the top three that have sort of occupied those spaces all year. Very different teams. It's making for a really interesting finals sort of makeup. I mean, Mariners have just obviously come into their own the last, since what was really a poor sort of start to the season. They've been, in my opinion, the best team to watch, since that sort of poor run ended. They score goals for fun. They have an equal contribution across the board, but they do have their standout talents in, like a Josh Nisbet, Angel Torres. Phoenix have certainly been the much more collective unit, winning games as a true collective and with a coach who I think plays the occasion really well and does what he needs to do to get the results that his side need. And then a Melbourne Victory who have, for a lot of the season were undefeated, a lot of draws in that run. And they definitely have standout talent in that squad that can liven up and lighten up a game. Your Zinedine Mashashas, your Daniel Azanis, your Bruno Fornarolis, but have probably failed to live up to their actual potential for a lot of the season. If you had to pick one out of those three at this point in time, who are you sort of thinking can go all the way?
Central Coast for me.
Yeah.
I think the only question mark I have with the Mariners is we expect them to go through to the next round of the AFC Cup. They have a 4-0 lead on aggregate going into that second leg in India. But they're going to have to go potentially to Kyrgyzstan next. And that's a much longer away trip. And if that gets in the way of sort of the league and being able to balance that, I'm just interested. We spoke about it last week to see how Mark Jackson balances that. But they've got enough talent. They've got enough talent in all over the pitch to be able to see it through. They've hit form at the right time. They've won 4 straight games in the league. They've only lost once since round 4, which is an incredible, incredible turnaround. But they have got, I think, who has been a surefire best player of the season in Josh Nisbet, who I think has had an amazing year and deserves a lot more credit. Talking about Socceroos call-ups, I think he should definitely be getting one. They've got an array of talent up front. Torres, Reek, Qual, Edmondson, whoever you throw up there. Jing Reitz, not Jing Reek. Marco Tullio leaving and they just find another player that just comes in and being able to do a job. It's quite incredible. They've got players all over. They've got a strong defence as well with Brian Kaltak and Dan Hall back there. Mikael Docker's hit some form. They are strong in every area of the park and they're hitting form at the right time. As for Wellington and Melbourne Victory, I think Wellington, as you said, very well organised. They know how to get points. They've found a way to continue to defy those odds this year. But Victory at the moment, I think, out of those three probably look the most sort of leaky or not as strong as maybe they once were. Yeah, it was a good win against Adelaide to get the 3 points. And maybe on a one-off game with all the individual talent they have, you'd back them in. I just think, though, the way the Mariners and Wellington are playing at the moment, especially the Mariners, I don't know who's going to stop them. Even if they do go deep in the AFC Cup, they just find an innate way to continue to get results. And they've just got all that talent. Like, I would not be surprised if they go back-to-back this season.
Yeah, certainly. I think it's hard to look past Mariners. If I had one redeeming factor for Victory, I do think it's the individual quality of players like Marshash and Fornaroli. And I just feel like Phoenix maybe lack that, in the days where the collective thing isn't working for them, do they have the one player who's going to find that spark of brilliance like a Nisbet can, like a Marshash can, like a Fornaroli can? I think that might be the one thing that might cripple them perhaps in finals if there is just an off day. They don't seem to have the individual, but they do have very few off days at the moment. So that's probably hopefully for them a moot point. But
Well, I think the most important thing is get top two
Yeah.
for them. Get top two, you get a guaranteed home leg at in a semi-final, because at home they are so good. And
Yeah.
you'd think that as much as the crowds haven't been reaching an amazing level, like a
Yeah.
full house, it's a big stadium at Sky Stadium, they've been having some good numbers. But you get a feel if they make finals, more people are going to get behind the Knicks. And when they get behind the Knicks, it can become quite an intimidating atmosphere. It's the extra travel factor as well, because you're not just traveling. I know Perth, it's a long away trip, but you actually have to travel overseas to go to Wellington. Like
Yeah.
it is a long away trip for anybody. So in a two-legged affair, when you have to go to Wellington and get a result, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy at all.
Yeah, it'd be interesting one to follow as we head into the finals. We'll look at this week's games. A few interesting ones in there. West United taking on Melbourne Victory, another Melbourne derby. I mean, Western have definitely found a much better level to their performances, I think, the last couple of weeks. Melbourne Victory, as we briefly touched on, had a good win over Adelaide United, but an Adelaide United team that's really struggled the last few weeks. Can Western United upset Victory here?
I actually think they will. I think Western United are going to win this game. I think they'd be absolutely kicking themselves after that loss they had a few weeks ago when they had a bunch of kids playing short turnarounds and they lost that game in second half stoppage time, a game that they should have at least gotten a draw from. It seems like right now they've got a bit of momentum, and it is off the back of the form of Daniel Pena, who I think is reminding the competition of just how good he is. I know Noah Botic is injured, and that's a big loss up front, but the fact that Pena's hitting the scoreboard, young Mac Grimaldi's hitting the scoreboard, Nikita Rukavica even hit the scoreboard against the Wanderers as well. They're just ending this season with a bit of a flurry. And I think it's important because Western United, similarly to Perth at the moment, and a very similar thing that they've now got that off-field stuff starting to get a little bit more certainty about where they're going to play. This might be one of their last home games away from Tarneit, actually being able to play at their home ground. I think that weighs on a player. That would be weighing on the players. There've been so much uncertainty for so long, but now you finally get that. They can finish this season not finishing as the Wooden Spooners. I think that they would take that in a heartbeat. Because they've basically been bottom the entire year. They're ending the season a better run of form of those teams just above them in Newcastle and Adelaide. And I actually think they're going to cause a bit of a stir to end this season. And I think they're going to beat Melbourne Victory. I think right now they're just playing on a really, really good level, and there's a good level of cohesion as well. So Western United win that one on Thursday night.
Okay, I went the draw, but I think I go a draw every time Melbourne Victory play now. It's just seems to be how the majority of their games end. But no, you might raise a number of good points. West United back-to-back wins now. So yeah, definitely a troubling fixture for Victory, who are really trying to stay in that top two picture. They're 6 points off. They really can't afford to drop too many more points. Newcastle Jets take on Adelaide United, a game that both teams will just be looking at in the run of fixtures that they've had and think, this is the one.
Yeah,
we just have to win this game because neither side has had much luck in terms of wins in recent weeks. I think both sides haven't won in their last 5. So they'll both be eyeing off each other and thinking, we'll be winning this one. But ultimately, do you think there is a winner here?
I think there is, and I think Adelaide win this game. I think about time we're going to see Adelaide get a result. I think there were some green shoots in that Victory game. Iran Kunda scoring. They've had a tough run, but Adelaide are a better team than where they are. They are not, from a squad composition. I know they've lost a lot of players. They aren't the 11th best team in the competition, in my opinion, purely from a squad perspective. Newcastle have been gallant. They've been very gallant all year. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, but I think Adelaide edge them out and get something to savour after what's been a really difficult couple of months for Reds fans. And I don't know, too late for them to play finals this year, but they'd be wanting to finish on a high note.
Yeah, I tipped the Jets to win with the home factor. There were green shoots for Adelaide, but I just think they're both been pretty poor defensively, to be honest. So to rule one team out purely on defensive frailties is probably a bit harsh. But I just think with the home form, with the home advantage, a much more potent goal threat in Stamatopoulos, I think I give the nod to Newcastle Jets. Wellington Phoenix taking on Sydney FC. Really interesting game, and I think a potential final sort of preview. I think it will be interesting to see Sydney FC have that travel factor and see how they go in Wellington. I couldn't really separate these two on current form. So I'm going to draw. How do you see it going?
I'm going to draw as well. This game being played in Auckland, one of the final games that Wellington will have as a home team in Auckland, because we know what's coming next year with the new Auckland franchise. So I think Wellington do get a result in this game. It's going to be a good game because Sydney are in some really good form at the moment, but I can't split them. I think we're going to end up as a draw. And nice little storyline with Ufuk Talay returning to first time going on the road to face his former team as well.
Yep, so that'll be an interesting game to follow. Brisbane Roar taking on MacArthur. Brisbane picked up a credible draw, I guess, against Sydney. Obviously, I think Sydney had a red card pretty early in the game, which probably helped them out in the end. But if Brisbane want to harbour any finals hopes, it's now or never, really.
Yeah, they've got to win this game. Playing at Ballymore Stadium on Saturday afternoon. First game there, I think, as an A-League team for their men's side. I think the Roar actually win this game. I think that they come away with what would be quite a hard-fought win. I think MacArthur at the moment just showed a little bit of frailties in that game against the Mariners that concerned me. They were very open in transition. They didn't create a lot as well. I still think they're going to play finals this year, MacArthur. I still think that based off the teams that are in that trailing pack, I think they've got enough of a buffer. But I'm a little bit concerned with how they're playing at the moment, even though they had that win against City a week ago too. And Brisbane are starting to find some momentum. 3 games unbeaten now. I think a good point against Sydney FC, all things considered. And I think they're going to come away with a win here at home.
Yep. I tipped MacArthur. Again, the home factor, the inconsistency factor, they lost last week, so therefore they'll probably win this week. I'm not sure. But, Brisbane Roar just seem to have a bit of a soft underbelly. I don't fancy them for too many points away from home. So I tipped MacArthur there. Perth Glory taking on Western Sydney Wanderers, a game we've sort of already touched on a little bit. We understand Mark Arruda is on the flight to
he's
Perth.
on his way,
He didn't front up to the press conference, but he made his way onto the plane. So he lives for another week as the Wanderers boss. Can Perth Glory put the final nail in his coffin, maybe?
I think Perth Glory win this game. I'm not going to speculate on whether it will mean Marco Rudan coaches out the season or not. But I think Perth Glory are going to win this game. I think they're hitting some, they've been in that plucky team at home. They beat the Wanderers actually on the road earlier this season. And I think they're going to do it again. I think Adam Taggart as well is going to come out and score 1-2. So I think the Glory heap a little bit more misery on the Western Sydney Wanderers. It just feels like there's not many positives. But we've seen time and again when a team gets battered, they find an innate way to bounce back. But this is a lot of football in a short period of time as well for the Wanderers. Glory have had a full week break.
Yeah.
And I think Perth are just going to be too strong at home.
Yeah, Perth at home for me too. The other game this week was meant to be Central Coast Mariners, Melbourne City, but obviously Mariners with their continental duties, this game's been postponed. So we'll move across to the Premier League, where we had a really exciting weekend of action. I think the 2 games we focused on last week ended up being, 2 of the better games. Obviously, Liverpool and Manchester City cancelling each other out, and Tottenham finding a way to get it done over Aston Villa. But we'll talk a little bit about the title, the top 2 game between Liverpool and Manchester City. A really intense game. It was sort of just helter-skelter, end to end. Liverpool had some amazing chances, hit the post a few times, but so did City, to be fair. Yeah. City go 1-0 up through a corner before Liverpool get the equaliser off a penalty. It was really the best result for a neutral, I think, in terms of keeping that title race, madness alive. It doesn't really give anyone an advantage, and in fact, it knocked both of them off the top with Arsenal getting a late win at Brentford. How do you see that title race now? I mean, it's really up for grabs.
It's flip a coin. Yeah. Is there such thing as a 3-sided coin? I mean, it's quite incredible. I think Liverpool would feel very aggrieved. I think considering the non-call at the end when Jeremy Doku went in with the high boot and they didn't get the call, they're going their way. Right now, we are set for what's going to be one of the great ends to the Premier League season, one of the best we've ever had. And I really hope we continue with this run of all 3 teams continuing this red hot run of form. it was a really fascinating game on Monday morning. And as you said, the best result happened for the neutral. We have now, Arsenal getting that win against Brentford. They've hit some really good form at the moment, considering they came out as well and beat FC Porto in a penalty shootout to wrap up their position in the next round of the Champions League. So the really cool thing is now that we have all three of these teams in continental action, because Liverpool absolutely battered Prague in their Europa League first leg. So it's more than likely they're going to have to balance the continental competitions all the way through as well. So that adds another little subplot. We've got Liverpool as well still in the FA Cup. Man City still in the FA Cup. So another competition to juggle if they're able to get through this week. So we talked about the injuries with Liverpool, whether it would come back to bite them. But this heavy load of fixtures for all three of these teams, Matt, I don't know how it's going to go, because it just feels like everyone's thinking oh, surely City's going to kick ahead. And Liverpool just keep finding a way to get points. Arsenal keep winning.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's great. It's great theatre.
I still think it's between Liverpool and City. I think 10 games is just a long time to have to maintain this for Arsenal. And as we've seen, obviously they're able to put together really nice long stretches of results, but they've also, balanced that with some poor stretches of results as well. And the question with Arsenal is, can they now maintain this for the remaining 10 games? But having said that, if you're an Arsenal fan and with 10 games left to play, you're sitting on top of the table, it's really all on your boot. Their next Premier League game is actually against Manchester City, which is another
after the international break as well.
After the international break, so it's another crucial fixture. And again, it's all in their control. That if they do what they need to do, they will finish the season as champions. And I'm still not convinced by them enough to say that I think they'll win it. But if you're top of the table with 10 games to play, it's hard to say that it's not been a relatively successful season, and you're not with it, with a real chance of actually seeing this one out. Liverpool and Manchester City. I think what's really impressed me with Liverpool is, but we talk, on the A-League side of things, we've spoken about Central Coast Mariners just constantly finding new talent from within. Liverpool have really been able to do the same. They had their backup keeper in goal. He made some pretty crucial saves against City. Connor Bradley, the fullback, has been a revelation, when he's needed to be. And they just seem to have there's that extra, I don't know, a motivation for them with Klopp finishing up at the end of the season as well. So, it's going to be a really fascinating end. Manchester City really do have I think the deepest squad of the three, but that hasn't necessarily always resulted in them keeping the wins going. So will be a really interesting sort of run in now with 10 games to go. And with all three teams really, like you say, competing on multiple fronts. I guess we did touch on it a bit last week, but that Tottenham-Aston Villa game was another one. Now there's a real battle for that fourth spot as well, and Tottenham's scoring a crucial blow against Aston Villa there to sort of put themselves back in the picture. But yeah, so wherever you look, there's really a lot of excitement on the table for the last sort of 10 rounds of the season. So I guess we'll just go and have a look at the Premier League games for this weekend. It's a bit of a shorter round this week with FA Cup quarter-final action. So we'll start with the Premier League and then we'll have a quick look at the FA Cup quarters. It starts with Bournemouth v Luton. I think this is some sort of catch-up game. It's outside of this round, but we'll have a look at it anyway. How do you see that one going?
Tough one, real tough one. Luton need points. They haven't been in the best run of form as of late. Bournemouth starting to edge clear in that relegation battle. I think Bournemouth come away with a win in this one at home.
Yeah, I don't know if the comfort factor starts to kick in a little bit for Bournemouth, because they have built a bit of a buffer between themselves and the relegation spots. Luton, desperately need the win. It is at Bournemouth though, so I might, Luton's been on a really terrible run of form too, 4 losses in a row. So I might agree with you there and go with Bournemouth. As much as I'm trying to make a case for Luton. Burnley taking on Brentford. Any thoughts on that one?
Brentford need a win to really kick clear of that bottom three, and I think they're going to get it this time around. Burnley are all but gone. I know they got a draw on the weekends, but I think that we know the sort of their fate, along with Sheffield United, is kind of sealed at the moment. And I think that Brentford are going to take one step closer to safety with a win.
Yep, I've got Brentford winning that one as well. Luton are then in action again. They take on Nottingham Forest. So it's a really
big game,
really crucial week for them. And it could make or break their survival chances. I think it could more break their survival chances than make them. But, if they can pick up a result at Bournemouth, then they host Nottingham Forest. This is one of the key battles in the relegation fight.
Yeah, I think that Nottingham Forest and Luton, this is a really tough game. You know what? I'm going to go a draw. I'm going to go a draw in this game. I think when you look at it and both these teams needing points, if Nottingham Forest win, I think I wouldn't say that they're all but safe, but, you get a nice 6-point gap going into the last stretch of the season. Luton lose. Well, I mean, if this game ends as a draw, just keeps that battle alive. And look, I'm all about the neutral at the moment. I want to see as many sort of games with high stakes. So I'm going to say that this game ends as a draw, so we continue having a little bit more drama in that battle to see who goes down. Yeah,
I went a Luton win with the home factor. I think it'll be a great atmosphere in that one. It's a really cool little stadium where the fans are right on top of it.
Yeah,
I think that might just make a difference for Luton, so I'll go with them. Fulham taking on Spurs. Again, I feel like this one sort of depends on which Fulham rock up. I think at their best, they're really difficult opponent to navigate. But, having said that, I don't think Spurs will be too bothered by which version of Fulham rocks up. I think they'll have a pretty compelling case for the win there.
Well, Fulham won the Carabao Cup fixture against them I think it was on a penalty shootout at the start of this season at Craven Cottage. So they've got the wood over them in that sense, but Tottenham desperate for points to continue this good run of form and really start to continue to put that pressure on Aston Villa. And I'm going to go Spurs coming away with 3 points here.
Yep, I went for Spurs there as well. And then West Ham versus Aston Villa. Aston Villa desperately need the win, but if there was a ground you had to go to where you need a win, I think West Ham would probably be one of the last ones you put down outside of the obvious ones. West Ham have turned a bit of a corner, and I think they could. I've got them for the win here.
I'm going an Aston Villa win. Yeah. My reason being West Ham have a big Europa League game on Friday where they're at home against Freiburg and they're down a goal and they need to win. And I think that they will put the eggs in the basket of the Europa League because when you think about it, for them, playing in Europe this year, if you can safeguard it by doing well in Europe and trying to get there via the Europa League, I think you know what, why not fancy going and winning another European trophy if you're a Hammers fan or a Hammers player. So I think that the run of fixtures might come back and hurt them a little bit. And Villa, desperate for a win, I think they're going to, I wouldn't say cause a boil over, but I think they're going to win this game in a very tight contest at the Olympic Stadium.
Well, we'll see. We'll see this weekend. We've also got FA Cup quarterfinals action, so we'll have a quick look at those games as well. Wolves take on Coventry from the lower leagues.
Yeah, Wolves win this game for me at the Molineux. No cup set there.
No cup set?
Nah.
No Coventry semi-final. We'll see. I find it hard to disagree, to be honest. As much as I'd love to see a Coventry win, I think Wolves will prove too good. Manchester City take on Newcastle. I mean, the only reason I'd even give Newcastle a look in is if Manchester City are looking to rest players.
Yep.
There is an international break coming up. They might see this as a reason to just keep, why
just
not?
Just go for it. You know what? Like, just put your best team out there. I think City, either way, if they rest a couple of players, they're going to be too strong.
Yeah. Man City for me there as well. Chelsea take on Leicester City.
If there's cup set written all over a game, this is the one. Yeah. Like, this is the one that has, a Leicester win written all over it. But I'm going to say Chelsea win this game in a tight one because they have to get something out of this season. The fact they didn't win the Carabao Cup, I think, still stings. They're not going to play in Europe next year via the league. They're sitting in 11th at the moment, which is still just baffling.
Yeah.
And I think if they can at least have an FA Cup run and keep their hopes of silver alive via that, it might be enough just to buy Poch a little bit more time. So I actually think Chelsea win here.
Yeah. Again, love to see a cup set, but Chelsea are the winners there for me. Talking of cup sets, maybe Manchester United can deliver a cup set. They take on Liverpool. These are always, really, really fascinating games.
It's weird.
Regardless of how they're actually travelling. There's a lot on the line here for Manchester United and their fans. I think if you can get one over Liverpool on the way to a trophy, that might make up for a lot of the shortcomings of this season for Erik ten Hag, and he might have that in mind with his own job potentially on the line. It's logically hard to bet against Liverpool, but it's the cup.
Oh, this is tough. There's still replays in the quarterfinals.
No, it's all extra
time now. I was going to say we're going to get a replay potentially at Anfield. I think this game does go to extra time. I think it's going to be a really tight game, and I think Liverpool edge it just. I know. Look, there's a big part of me that wants to tip United because there is that feeling of like United needs, similar to Chelsea, they need something to hang on to this year. They're not going to finish in the top 4. If coefficient all works out with the way it works with, I think potentially 5 teams get in, it's still in for them to catch Tottenham is quite hard. But if they can win something, getting it via there, and as you said, knocking out an old rival along the way would be huge for them. But I just think Liverpool at the moment are just playing on another level, and they're just finding a way to grind out results, and I think they're going to do it again.
Yeah, United missing. If this was full strength United, I think they'd have more of a chance. I think with their outs, they just haven't coped without their best 11 the way that the Liverpools or the Cities have. So I probably tip Liverpool as much as I hate to, but I can't see. I'm struggling to see United get the win here. Well, that will wrap up another week of the kickoff. Be sure to check out My Betting Mate for the weekly Premier League Pulse and A-League Alert columns. Thanks again to Nick for joining me.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you next week.